Oh, we're live. I think we're live. Hi, everybody. How are we doing? I hope we're well. So we've still got a few minutes to go until 7. Well, one minute to go until 7. I'm just going to hang around for a second and just make sure that everything is working live. How exciting. How exciting, how exciting. There we go. Excellent. I think we're working. I think we are. So it's bang on 7 o'clock. So we've got Google Live or YouTube Live working just now, and then we've got for the webinar part, and then we've got Chatwings. Chatwings is like a chat box, like an MSN old school chat box ones that we used to do years ago, where you can leave any of your comments. Now, talk to me. Who's here? Who's not here? Let me get that part working. Oh, that's not coming up. So we've got Steve here. He is doing moderating tonight. How are we doing over there, babe?
Very well, yes. We have a couple of questions.
Oh, already? Yeah. Amazing,
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So any questions on how to use Chatwings? Is there anybody not seeing the video, but they're seeing the sound or hearing the sound or other way around? So let's get the tech stuff sorted first, and then I'll do proper introductions in just a second. So Steve, how are we doing over there?
Yep, looking good. Everything's live. I can see you.
Excellent. And Chatwings
is working absolutely
fabulous. So let me tell you a bit more about Chatwings then before we properly get started. So Chatwings, like I mentioned, is an MSN chat box, and you can have all of, you can log in on your social media accounts. So I believe it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, where you can log in on just your normal login details, and then that will pull over your profile. So it only pulls over your profile picture, and it pulls over your name. So if you post a comment in the chat box, I'll be able to see it, and then I'll be able to work and answer all of your questions. So I think we'll get started. It's 7:01. Oh, I'm so excited. Any questions before we begin?
Yeah, a couple. So,
oh, fantastic. Let's answer them.
Michelle said, how is it best to capture moving objects, i.e. the children at Christmas? Because they do move fast.
Yeah, that's a really difficult one. We can cover that tonight. It's already on the slide. Fantastic. And any other ones?
And then Steph says, just capturing children, basically. Again, it's a lot of children questions.
Excellent. So lots of fast-moving little bunnies at Christmas, and really excited ones as well. And we just need to be able to use the cameras effectively to be able to photograph them perfectly and get some really beautiful technical shots as well. So let's make us start. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited. This is my first webinar. You might be able to tell I'm a little bit giddy. And yeah, so let's do some proper introductions then. So my name is Stephanie Cronin from the Female Photography Club. I have been a photographer for 15 years now and work under my wedding and commercial and family business, which is called Summers Photography. I have been doing that for 15 years, like I mentioned, and from the accent you can tell I'm not a local girly. I am from Edinburgh originally, where I did started out in photojournalism and then moved to the Berkshire area in England and developed into the weddings and portrait side of things. In that journey of time, I also trained at Heathrow Airport to become a trainer and assessor and verifier. So it's really bringing those two passions together to do photographic training. So both huge loves of mine, and something that to bring it both together is just yeah, a dream come true, really. Soppy cheesy, I know, but really true. And that's where we brought in the Female Photography Club. So it's only been going since September. We are 499 members strong on Facebook. We just need one more, and then we'll be starting a giveaway on the minute that happens. We've got some lovely prizes up for grabs, which we'll be doing that in on Facebook and Instagram as soon as we hit 500.
You just have.
Oh, yay! Okay, start some prizes. I don't have them just here right now, but we can do once I finish the webinar. So the reason that I wanted to bring the webinar to you was to really introduce you to the Female Photography Club. And yes, it's for girls and it's no boys, apart from Steve and apart from Thor, our puppy. But they're kind of like our wingmen. And the reason that we've made it for ladies only is I like pink and sparkles. I like talking about camera handbags, and women learn differently to how men do. And that might sound sexist or whatever, but I have taught hundreds of people over the past few years how to use cameras and get the best out of the photography. And men pick up the technical side a lot quicker than what women do. And we are very much the creative and the memories, and want to develop those memories and make albums and beautiful stuff. And the guys, this is very sweeping generalization. So yeah, so you just bear with me on that one. But the guys are really amazing on the tech and want to develop their skills a lot faster and use different lenses and all that kind of stuff, where that's fantastic. And I do as well for my commercial and wedding work. But when it's weekends and dog walks, I'm quite happy to take more creative shots. So a very sweeping generalization. Forgive me if any chaps are listening to this. If you want to have something to say to it, feel free to challenge that. But yes, that's where the Female Photography Club has really started and progressing strongly, and it's working brilliantly so far. We've got some great community on there, and everybody is very supportive and helpful, and I could not be more thrilled if I'm honest. So let me properly begin then. So I have my little notes here. Can't be anywhere without either notes on my phone or notes on a notepad, and I've told you about who we are and what the Female Photography Club represents. So I'm just going to minimise the webinar for a second and show you the slides and tell you exactly what we're going to be covering in the next half an hour or so. So this bit goes a little bit slow and a bit kind of staggered, so just bear with me and it will be right up in just 1 second. 1 second more. Oh, where are we going? Oh, see, I told you. Tech stuff, hey? There we go. Okay, Steve, can you just confirm that you can see the first slide?
Give me 2 seconds. It takes a minute to buffer.
Yeah, it will take a minute just to load. So you should hopefully see a big camera logo and some gold and turquoise text. It will take a minute to load.
Not yet.
Not yet? Let's try it another way. Can you see the little chevrons?
No.
Okay. Thor's coming to help now. See, I told you, it's all about the tech stuff.
Always the tech stuff.
Let's try this now. Desktop. Okay, now we're cooking. All right, is that any better?
2 seconds. Nope.
Okay, third time's a charm. Work it with me, people. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just going to bring this out of max view. Apologies, folks. I told you there'd be some tech issues. Okay, can you confirm again that that's all right?
It will be once we get past the infinity. And there we go.
Ah, excellent stuff. Well done. All right then, folks. So green and turquoise is our branding colours, and welcome to getting your camera Christmas ready. So really exciting stuff. These are the 5 key areas that we're going to be discussing tonight to get your cameras Christmas ready, dusted off. Naughty stares right there, because I've heard a few people have said that once summer's over and they've maybe taken 1 or 2 lovely pictures of autumnal leaves, cameras go back on the shelf and they don't really pick them up again until Christmas. So that's the whole point of the webinar tonight, really, to get your cameras out of the boxes, out of the bags, out of the cupboards and into your sitting rooms and really using them and utilising them. So 5 key areas to get you Christmas ready: camera prep, beginner setting recap, intermediate setting recap, new purchases, shopping time, and lighting help. So 5 really key things that we're going to be discussing this evening, and just to really make sure that's exactly what you were hoping to see tonight. I will take some questions just after the next slide. So tonight, it's 30 to 40 minutes. I do have a tendency to waffle on, forgive me. So if it does go over, please feel free to hang around, or you can catch up on the replay. If you hear that chomping in the background, that's the dog having his dinner. So please forgive that as well. We are real life here, we're not ears and braces. Find a notepad and pen. sparkling one preferably, and make some notes throughout. Find your favourite drinky. I was going to join you in a glass of vino this evening, but I'll stick to my peppermint tea. We are also launching our first online photography course. This kickstarts everything, and it's called A Creative Christmas, and we have some amazing special bonus offers for our online viewers tonight. So I can't wait to share that with you as well. So as I mentioned, I'm going to take a question just now and bring the webinar back up. Steve, what questions do we have? Anything apart from the kids and the technical ones?
Just Katie ones in a second.
More of those. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so let's just wait until this is all caught up again. There we go. And we're live again. Is that all right, babe?
Once we get past infinity.
Any minute now. So my lovelies, for those that are here, you've already left a couple of questions about getting ready with to photograph your little ones this Christmas. If there's any other questions that you may have or you've been thinking about, please pop them in the chat wings box and we'll be able to answer them, or pop them on a Facebook comment, anything like that at all, really. So let's begin, I think. Have we caught up on the whole?
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got Thor here. Hi, you gonna come up? No, he's thinking about it. So the first thing was getting your camera ready for Christmas. So it doesn't really matter if you have this type of camera, which is a mirrorless camera, or you've even got this type of camera, as I'm sure most of us do. We need to make sure that they're ready and operational as well as they can be before we start photographing at Christmas, because if they're not, and you'll be halfway through photographing the little ones open their presents in the morning and then your battery dies, or you run out of memory, or you've got fingerprints all over the lens. So these are 5 top key tips to get your cameras ready to start photographing. So the first one is make sure batteries are charged. How often do you start photographing? I'm getting my nails done on Friday, so excuse them. How often do you start photographing and you're enjoying it, you're in your element, and you are on holiday or you're a weekend away and your battery dies? Do you have a backup? That's really the main question. Is if you have more than one battery, fantastic. Keep them both charged for Christmas and on hand. I've got this handy little, not talking about bags at the moment, but forgive me, I am obsessed with my camera bags. You would be forgiven to think that this is just a handbag. It's not. It's an actual camera bag from Accessorize. It's something like £19. It's brilliant. And you've got huge compartments in there. It doesn't really fit the SLR cameras. It only really fits the smaller mirrorless cameras, or the very, very small entry-level SLR cameras, like the Canon 1100D and so on. So I always keep my spare batteries in here and spare memory cards for when I'm out and about, so I don't have to run and kind of rummage and try and find out where everything is. If they're nice and charged as well, at least you know that you've got several hundred worth of images that you can take on those charged batteries, or you've got a good few it depends on obviously your camera type, but quite a good few amount of either minutes or hours of video time that you can record on your cameras as well. So that's top tip number 1 with the batteries. Next one, memory cards. So this is, I'm sorry folks, this is a bit of a bugbear of mine, and I don't know if it's because I've just been doing this for so long or if it's just something else. So this is a memory card. How many of you will take photographs at a party and then you put the camera away for a few months and then don't do anything with the photos, and then you'll go to a wedding or you'll go to Winter Wonderland and then you'll take more photographs and you don't do anything with them, and then before you know it you've got 6 holidays worth of images on one memory card? What happens if that memory card gets corrupt? So these things happen. These memory cards, even though they're so expensive, they're not infallible, and I know this is a bit of a pain point for one of our viewers. I'm not going to mention names at the moment, who lost family holidays photographs. So my heart was breaking for you, my lovely. But absolutely, it's the best thing to do. So get in the habit of maybe having a couple of memory cards. Just that it has to be something like a 60 megabyte gigabyte. That's absolutely fine. You'll probably be able to pick them up for about £20 on Amazon, and make sure that when you photograph, put it on one memory card, take that memory card out when you get home or that weekend, save it onto your computer, back it up, and then format that card. So if you don't format that card back to factory settings, it's kind of like writing on a blackboard. Remember when you used to write on chalk on a blackboard and you'd wipe it out and there's still remnants left? It's kind of the same thing what happens with a memory card. If you don't delete and format the images, it leaves remnants of those old photographs. So it's a really great habit just to get into the reformatting those cards so that they're blank slates again and ready to go with your next photo shoot. So have plenty of memory cards on hand as well. This one is a huge one of mine, and I'm really bad, so I'm quite happy to admit that. When was the last time that you looked in your lenses to see how dirty they are? That's actually not too bad. I'm quite surprised. No, of course not. I'm professional. Of course I clean my lenses all the time. So one of the great things is to really make sure that you are cleaning the glass element, the front element on your lenses, to make sure that there's no dust on there and there's no fingerprints on there. Because if there is greasy fingerprints on the images, on the lens, it will come through on the images as well, and it will just look blurry and streaky, and it just won't look clean, so it just won't look great. This is one of my best buys. It's called a lens pen. A lens pen has a brush on the end of it with a really soft buffer. It's kind of like a lint-free cloth on the end that you can just lift any debris on the lens, and it's the same. Oh my goodness, look at the state of that one. No, not quite getting the angle on that one. It's just really great to get in the habit of just keeping these lenses clean. That I'm not doing on this one. Oops. So nice and shiny. So that's really one of the best things to do, is to pick up a lens pen. I will pop a link in the replay afterwards, so that you've got the link to purchase that as well. So with the cleaning of the cameras, then that's great. But when was the last time you cleaned the back of your phone, as in the lens, or the front of the camera as well? So just make sure that you do buffer those ones off before you start photographing as well. So that's very much the lens pen, and this is always a fun one to check. Who wears glasses or contact lenses in the group? So quite a few. Put a yes in the comment in the chat wing box. Any yeses so far?
Yes.
Excellent. So it depends on what your eyesight is like. I'm going to point to something on the camera now. If you can see it, possibly not. Oh, there we go. Do you see? Oh, wait, there we go. This little tiny little dial here. It's got a plus and minus on it. Don't get confused with the plus and minus button or the elsewhere on your camera. But this one, Laura's getting involved now. With this one, this changes the dioptics. So it's the same. I lost my train of thought. It's the same setup that you have when you go to the opticians, when they put the funky glasses on and put the different lenses in the frames, just to see what strength of glasses you need. So this is very much the same thing. It has a positive and a negative, and when you look through there, you can change the eyesight to suit your eyesight. So if somebody has perfect eyesight in your family that uses your camera, and then they change that wheel, then you'll be looking through a camera that looks quite blurry as well. So just be mindful, if you've never changed this little setting on here, it's not even a setting, it's just a little dial. That little dial is just next to your viewfinders. Do hold the camera up to your face, turn it on, just tap to autofocus on anything that you're photographing, and then just try and change the little wheel at the top, just to really make sure it's nice and clear. So it's entirely up to you with regards to your strength of glasses that you need. But that's a really great one, because people will look through their camera and think, I've got really blurry photographs, why are they coming out like that? So yes, great tip for that one. That is called the dioptics and the meters, and you can check that out on your own cameras. It may be in different locations for your own camera model, but yes, very much have a look at it. So that's the first part about getting camera prepared. I'm going to ask you all a question. What cameras do you have? And can you write that in the chat box, please? That would be brilliant. And I'm going to take back over to the webinar. Oh no, I'm not going to leave it there. Any comments, Ben?
Yeah, Michelle would like to know, and I have kind of texted the answer, but it's probably better coming from you straight to the camera, is what is formatting the card?
Ah, that's a great question. Thank you, my lovely, for asking that one. So if you were to delete an image off your memory card, it leaves remnants. It's like building blocks, or it kind of use the analogy that I used earlier with a blackboard. If you've got a completely blank slate, and that's like a formatted memory card, there's nothing on it, it's reset back to factory settings. When you format a card, and please don't do this before, I'm not just saying this to you, Michelle, but to anybody that's watching, if you format a card without backing up your images, you will lose everything on your card. So that's probably a caveat that I should have added earlier on. But it's a way to factory reset all of the images, and it will delete all of the images, and it's like working on a new memory card. For a professional, we tend to change our memory cards every year to 2 years, depending on the make. I only use really high-end memory cards because I'm using them for clients' memories and wedding days. So for you guys, you'll be able to get a lot longer out of them. It depends on how often you're using your memory card or your camera, I guess. But with deleting an image, you still have remnants left, versus formatting a card will completely wipe that memory card back to factory reset. So I hope that's answered your question. Any other comments, my lovely?
We have, so for cameras, we have a Canon 1200D.
Ooh, nice.
And Michelle has a Canon Digital and a Nikon Coolpix, something or other.
Something or other. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. There's always a something or other ones, that's for sure. Definitely. So they're brilliant cameras. On the Canon 1200 Steph, you'll be able to have that little wheel at the top. So have a play around with that. Focus on something that's just in front of you just now. And then change that wheel on top of it, not your aperture wheel, but the plus and minus dioptics. That one. Just next to your viewfinder, and you'll be able to see the difference. It's quite incredible. Michelle, with your Nikon Coolpix, it doesn't have anything like that built in. It's a great little camera. It will do it all automatically for you because it's not got a viewfinder on it, I believe. I'm thinking of the right one. It's simply the screen on the back, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's one less thing for you to worry about. Woohoo! So moving on then to the next part. So part 2 was all about a recap on the basic introduction settings for your cameras, and then part 3 is all about the more advanced or intermediate as well settings for your camera. So the first things first, if we were to think about the camera mode dial that's on top of your camera on your SLR, you have automatic in the middle, and then you have all of your creative automatic settings underneath. So they will look something like a little face with a hat, a running man, a flower, and a mountain range. Let me know if I've missed any out. Is there any other icons on your camera dial that I've not mentioned out of those 4? Not yet, it's a bit of a delay. Anyway, I'll go on. So when we pick up our cameras, we have the tendency to pop them on automatic and kind of hope for the best. But as we've seen, it doesn't always work out that well. So we really need to be changing our attention, I guess, to photographing on different modes and different settings, and eventually mastering manual. That can be a little while away. It doesn't have to be done for Christmas, but certainly it will be a great development to get to that point. So one of the settings, or the group of settings, is called the Creative Automatic Intelligent Modes, and I love these. They're really handy and they're quite convenient if you are dog walks, holiday, that kind of thing. But on a professional camera, I don't have any. So I'm expected to do everything on manual. So all of your creative auto modes will be just under here. So you'll have the portrait, you'll have the landscape mode, you'll have all those different creative automatic modes. So each of those does a separate thing. So if you're wanting to photograph, say, details in the home around Christmas time, Christmas trees, wreaths, anything like that at all, kids, pets, people, and you want to get a clear foreground, a clear subject, and then a blurry background, use the portrait mode. So let me tell you what each of these do. Portrait mode gets myself in focus and we get the background relatively out of focus. It's not going to be a complete blur because I'm too close to the background, but it'll be good enough. It'll be a good start. So that's what portrait mode does. It's a really nice creative effect to get that blurry background. The next one is landscape mode, and landscape mode makes sure that everything is in focus, front to back, left to right. It's amazing for being on holiday, scenery shots, architecture, or even group photographs. So it's strange that I'm saying group photographs for landscape mode, but it's going to get everybody in focus. So it's a really great technical setting to use. We just need to remember what each of these settings do and represent, and then be able to use them. The sportsman or woman is for fast action. So you're going to see a waterfall, if you're going to a sporting event over Christmas, you've got the kids running around, that is the one to use, where you don't need to really think about it too much. You can just use the sports mode and be able to develop and take those photographs. And what it's doing, it's not doing anything in terms of focus. What it's using is a fast shutter speed to really secure that movement. So you might hear the dog playing around at the moment. So if I were to put the camera on sports mode, that would take a series of fast action photographs on a high ISO, we'll talk about that more in a moment, and we'll use a fast shutter speed to secure every movement that he would make. So it's a really great one. The other one that I really like is macro mode, and macro mode is the same as portrait mode, but it does it a little bit closer. So if you wanted to photograph the detail on the chair, or jewellery, or small flowers, or any small goods, macro mode is perfect to use. It's great because it brings everything life size, it brings all those details to the fore, but it makes your background out of focus so that your attention is solely on that small detail. So one of my favourites, it really is a great one. Have anybody that's on the chat used those settings before? I'm going to have a sip of peppermint tea before I go on. So pop a comment in the comment box if you've used those settings before, and were they successful? That's the main thing. It's okay using these settings, but if they're not successful, we need to work out why. What comments have we got?
Nothing yet.
On Facebook?
Nothing yet.
Oh, we're not live on Facebook,
No,
of course.
no.
We're just on the webinar. No, this is not Facebook Live.
So Michelle says that she used sports mode
Hey.
in Orlando. Very nice.
Michelle, your photographs from America were just amazing. They were incredible. What did you use? What mode did you use to photograph the fireworks over the castle? Was that sports mode, or was that something different?
Definitely made a huge difference.
Yay! So glad to hear that.
And Sue just joined us. She has a Canon 60 and a 7D Mark II.
Hi Sue, thanks for joining us. Lovely to see you, or hear from you at least. We're just talking about getting camera ready, my lovely, if you've just joined, and getting the cameras out of those bags and ready for Christmas. Just a reminder, Sue, so you've got those two lovely Canon cameras. Do you use the creative automatic modes? Or are you whizzing away after being on the course on aperture and shutter priority? Hopefully it's that one.
Steph says she uses the portrait mode.
Excellent.
Until she learned how to use manual.
Woohoo! Oh, I know. I'm so thrilled for you, my love. So, back to what we were saying. So great that you have, or the people that are watching, or the people that are live on the chat. It's a different number on the chat to what's actually watching, so we've got a few shy ones, but if you've got any questions, then just pop them on a Facebook message to me instead, and so you'll pick them up tonight. So with those automatic creative settings, they are fantastic and great for playing around with puppies that bring you Kongs and things, and be able to secure those. So like Steph said, she did use portrait mode until she was able to start using manual, and it's quite amazing the difference that you can go from thinking automatics, great, to then portrait mode, which is just completely changes your photographs, to then being able to control your cameras. So well done, Steph. I'm thrilled to think that you are here, that you're able to develop onto manual. So that's very much the introduction to the basic settings. I'm just going to whiz through or move on to part 3 now, which is all about the intermediate settings. So if we can think about where the camera mode dial is on our cameras, where you've got automatic in the middle as a green rectangle or a white camera, and everything underneath that is a preset automatic mode. Have a look at what's on top of the automatic. What's on top of the automatic. If you're a Nikon or Olympus, you will have the letters MASP or MSAP in this instance. Don't know if we can see because it's too shiny. Just about. So we've got MSAP on here. On the Cronin cameras, it's a bit different. It's not MASP, it's MTV, AV, and P. So it does exactly the same thing. It's just a different name on the box. So if we're working from the bottom upwards, so you've got P. P doesn't stand for professional, sadly. It stands for program, which is basically a fancy automatic, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. AV is for aperture priority on the Canons, or aperture value on the Canons. On the Nikons and other manufacturers, you've got that's aperture value or aperture priority. TV on the Canons is time value, which is your shutter speed priority, and on the Nikons and other manufacturers, that is an S instead of a TV for you guys, and that again is shutter priority. And then you've got M. So the lovely M is full manual, and that will take a little bit of getting worked to and working up to, but we'll get there at some point soon. So with starting with P, program, it's really great because it is, like I mentioned, it's a fancy automatic, but there's two main settings that you can change, as well as others, but the two key ones are ISO and white balance. White balance is an easy peasy one. I'll start with that one first. If you are photographing in broad daylight and nice and sunshine, you will put it on the sunshine mode. If you're photographing when it's nice and cloudy, when it's nice, soft, even light, you'll put it on cloudy. If you're working from home and you have tungsten light bulbs, you will put it on tungsten white balance. It basically makes your whites white and creates a perfect tonal range that is suitable to that light cast that's coming off that light. So for example, it's 7:30 here in the UK. I have two main lights on me at the moment. These are studio lights, so a little bit different to house lights, but they're daylight balanced lights. So if I were to photograph me just now, or the chair, or the lights behind me, I'd probably put it on daylight balanced. How strange is that? But because I know the Kelvin, the temperature of the light coming off those lights is the same as what sunlight and daylight is, that's how I'll be able to use the white balance effectively. Automatic white balance is fantastic. It does a really, really good job. But just in case you get some orangey or bluey photographs this Christmas, now you know what to change. The next one is ISO. And ISO is all about the light sensitivity to that camera. So this is the one main thing about Christmas and being in the UK, that it's dark when we go to work and it's dark when we come home. So we're always photographing in the dark. So how we can get the cameras to see in the dark is to really teach it how to use the ISO properly. So the ISO, like I mentioned, is how sensitive the camera is to light. And you've got regions starting at 100 right all the way up to the high thousands. I'm going to stop here and ask what the users in the group can find their ISO. You put your cameras on P, please, and then find the ISO button. For me, on my Canon, it's just on the top. On some other Canons, the ISO button is on your dial pad, or it can be over here. So it depends on what model you've got. If you've got a compact camera, it's going to bring it up on here. It will be in your menu system, and then you can change your settings through there as well. So I'll tell you what number I can get up to on my little camera, and I can get right up to, oh my goodness, 25,600 ISO. Now that means nothing at the moment, but let me tell you a little bit more about that in a second. On the big camera, I can get up to 102,400. That's quite incredible. Steve, what numbers are we getting on the chat wing?
None so far.
Not yet.
I think people are going to get their cameras.
Here's
a good question for you.
Oh, great.
What does ISO stand for? That's from me.
So ISO, Mia, stands for International Standardized Organization. So it's got nothing to do with photography. The whole idea was that it used to be, back in the day when we bought film, it used to be called ASA, which was the American Standardized Authority. But then different continents would have different ways to measure ISO. So they all got together to make the International Standardized Organization to measure ISO on film and digital cameras. So yeah, nothing quite anything to do with photography, which is a shame because it would be quite funky if it was something to do with light sensitivity, ISO. But yes, that's exactly what the letters stand for. So if you can't quite find those that button to let me know what number you can get up to,
it's just said 6,400.
Wowzers! These are high numbers. So considering that we used to only be able to get to 800 on film photography, it's quite different now to what we can use on digital photography. So let me give you some examples then. So 100 ISO would be for pure blue sky, bright days, where the camera does not need to be sensitive at all to light. We don't really have many of those days at the moment. We're having mostly cloudy days. So I would start, if I'm photographing, around about 400 if I'm outdoors and it's daylight. Even if it's indoors, I'd probably start in the 400 to 800 region because it can be quite dark in houses at the moment as well. Even I would try and put the lights on just to give your camera a little bit of a boost and help with the light and the shutter speed department. But certainly with 400 to 800 indoors. Nighttime, this is the hard one. So I'd probably start around about the 1600 region for photographing at nighttime, especially if you want to be photographing those funky lights that are all around our houses up and down the country, and be able to get some half decent shots hand holding the camera, and you don't have to put it on a tripod. There is a downside, which is only really a downside if you're really thinking about printing your photographs to like massive poster sizes, and that's to do with the grain and the noise. So the higher the number you go, the more grain and the noise that you get on the image. So yes, it's a trade-off, but it's still, you'll be able to take a photograph at night versus not being able to take a photograph because of the grain. So yeah, it's really up to you where your priorities lie. I think we have a question.
So basically, Michelle can go up to 3,200.
Brilliant.
ISO.
Brilliant.
But she also says it's an auto and oh, the shame of it. And Sue says she gets to 25,500.
Wow.
But on the 7D, which I didn't know, it can go up to 16,000.
Oh my goodness! Oh yay! So that's helped. So that's something that for you to have a think about and play with. So I really urge you to take away from the webinar tonight to the bits that I've mentioned so far. Just jot them down. Hopefully you've been jotting them down. I'll be sending out a replay. And I'll obviously, I'll write up a few bits and pieces so you don't have to stop starting and finding out the main section. But yeah, have a play around tonight on 1600 ISO, Sue, and on the 5,000...
6,500 for Steph and
3,200 for Michelle. Take a photograph on 100. Take a photograph on your highest number and then do an average, do one in the middle just to see the difference between those settings, and you'll be blown away. I really promise you that. So we've talked about white balance and ISO. The next one we're going to talk about is aperture, very briefly, because it is a huge area to discuss. We've not got the time, frankly, so I wish we did, but this is the abridged version. So that is an aperture. Quite funky. Oh, it's a bit spooky seeing upside down. So the aperture is the hole in the lens which lets the amount of light come through. Now, that is a beautiful space of light coming through that lens. Not all lenses are made equally, and not all lenses are have that amount of light. Let's put that lens back on. Have that amount of light coming through. For example, this one, it's not quite comparable. That's just a little bit smaller. This is a different aperture. So let me tell you what the aperture does, because this is really important. So the aperture, as you've seen, is the amount of light, the circumference of light that's coming through that camera, so the volume of light that's come through the lens into the camera to expose the photograph. There's two ways of thinking about it. One, to be able to get a blurry background, like portrait mode and macro mode, we need to be able to use our cameras on aperture priority, so AV for the Canons and A for the Nikons and other camera manufacturers, and use a really small number like 3.5 or 5.6, 4, 3.5, 2.8, 1.8, all those kind of numbers. Not all of your lenses will be able to get to those small numbers. Most of your lenses you'll probably be able to get to 3.5 or 5.6 because that's the average aperture that you get for your kit lens, which are basic lenses, sad to say, but they're fantastic lenses to get you started, but they're not quite cutting it in terms of blurriness, if I want of a better word, to get really professional looking images. That's why, well, we're talking about shopping purchases in a minute after we've done the technical part, but this lens, it's not broken, I promise. This lens is the 50mm 1.8 lens, and it's a 1.8 aperture. So if I can get to 1.8, and that means really big, your lenses can only get to 5.6, which is middle of the road. So that means a smaller number means a blurrier background. So therefore, I would be able to get blurrier photographs, creative blur, not movement blur. That's a very different thing in the background than what you'll be able to achieve on your kit lenses, your basic ones. So that's just something to think about. If, however, you want to photograph a scene, so it's a landscape scene or a group party, or you just want to have a wide depth of field, you want to be using a higher number, so something like f11, f16, and that will be able to get you a wider depth of field, which means that everything will be in focus, left to right, front to back, and you'll be able to get the difference between those two ones. And it doesn't really matter what lens that you have, because most of your cameras will be able to go up to f22 as a minimum. So let's put the cameras on aperture priority and use your wheel, this wheel here, to move your aperture all the way up and tell me what your biggest number is. It's most likely f22. See any numbers yet?
Nope. But Michelle's having fun playing with the ISOs.
Yay!
Already, she says.
Isn't that fantastic? Oh, thrilled. Well done, my lovely. So in this little camera, I can get to f22, and that means a wide depth of field. So wide number, big number, or wide depth of field, big number. And I can get to f22 on this camera as well. So if I want to take a really beautiful landscape of London Eye and Big Ben, I would be photographing the camera on a tripod at f22, because at f22 it's a pinprick size of a hole of an aperture, so the camera needs to be open for ages to let lots of light come through the aperture on that one. Steph, I think yours was 3.5, is that right? To 5.6?
She's actually playing with the camera. She just says, I have taken a photo of our tree, no main lights on, just the tree lights, and on 800 it's blurry, but on 1600 it's a lot better. Is that correct? Mm-hmm.
Yes, because at 800 ISO, let me get this right, at 800 ISO, you're not having, the camera's not sensitive enough to the light yet. If you put your main lights on, it probably would just about be okay. But if you were to, if the lights are off and it's just your Christmas tree, it's not going to be sensitive enough to pick up those lights. Therefore, the camera's thinking, uh-oh, I need to keep the shutter speed open for longer, which is resulting in a little bit of blur. Whereas when you put it onto 1600 ISO or 3200 ISO and go higher and higher up the chain, you will be able to get, the camera is a lot more sensitive to the light. Therefore, it doesn't need to be open as long. It can have a nice, short, fast shutter speed to secure that movement and get you a nice illuminated image and a nice sharp image. I might have a little bit of blur in the shadows, sorry, not blur, a little bit of grain and noise in the shadows, but hey, it doesn't really matter. As long as you got a nice, sharp and bright enough image, then I'm happy with that. So yes, well done.
F numbers are through. So Steph has got f29 and Sue can get to f32.
Ooh, f32. Well done, Sue. I think on my 5D3, if I'm on manual, I can get to, no, it's 22 for me as well. So at f32, you're going to see every nook and cranny on your next wide depth of field image. So well done. So that is apertures. Shutter speeds is very similar. So in terms of, I'm going to do a cardinal sin, but this is getting cleaned shortly, so I'm not that bothered. But I don't think you'll be able to see it very well. But in here, do you see that movement? That is your shutter curtain, and that, as you heard, was a very fast shutter speed. So you can go right down to a slow shutter speed, which sounds something like this. Hear that lag? So if you ever hear your camera doing that lag, that is a warning sign or a warning sound for you to change something. Preferably your shutter speed to make it faster if you know what you're doing, or if you're not too sure, just pop the ISO up a little bit higher, and then that will hopefully help out on the ISO, on the shutter speed front. But certainly with the shutter speeds, your go-to minimum is roughly 125th of a second. It's a fraction, 1 over 125th of a second. And that's really great for letting enough light in to make it a bright enough picture, and just about enough speed to be able to secure the movement and your puppy or kid or swing or whatever running towards you. So the next time that you've got movement going on, put it to 125th and see how you go. You can go higher up the chain, which is going to make it faster, which is therefore going to cut down the amount of light coming through, or you can go further down the chain, which is going to make it slower shutter speed, but it's going to let more light in. So it really is a trade-off to what you're looking for. If you pop your camera on TV on the Canons or S on the Nikons, and then just move your shutter wheel, which is the same wheel we used aperture to change at a moment ago, which is just that little wheel there. You'll be able to tell me what your fastest shutter speed is. So for me, it's 1 over 8,000. So that is for cheetahs in the Serengeti. Sports, Olympics, you're looking at about a 2,000. So that's just to give you an idea on speed. Formula Ones, general sports like sports day and things, I would go to about 500 and just kind of play around, get a real good feel for them. If you take a photograph at the high thousands, it will come out black, pure black, and that's fine because it's just too fast for any light to go through the lens into the camera to expose the photograph. If you were to go the other way and go down to the seconds, so do you see that 2 with the little quotation marks next to it? That denotes a full second. So just be mindful of when you get to that region, it's going to take ages. This is 1 second, and listen to how long that sounds. Really long, and that's just 1 second. So you can imagine holding that for 30 seconds. You're going to be there forever, it would seem. Any questions on shutter speed or aperture?
No, not so far.
Wonderful, wonderful. So with those tiny little recaps, the best thing to do is to really be using your cameras on the ISO, changing the ISO when you're on aperture priority. I like aperture priority. I feel comfortable using that one because I know that the camera is going to deliver what I'm looking for or what I'm expecting. But that comes with experience, and that's 15 years of experience talking rather than somebody that's just bought their camera a week ago. So these will come naturally to you. So I tend to go more for aperture priority unless I am photographing something of speed. So if I am at Virginia Water, which is not far from here, and there's a beautiful man-made waterfall inside there, I will take a photograph on either manual or shutter priority, and then be able to change the settings and see what's what and which one I prefer to photograph and achieve the effect that I'm looking for. So it's a really great way to experiment with settings. But for me, for every day, it tends to be aperture priority. A high-ish ISO, so 400 if I'm out and about, 1600 is a ballpark because if I'm working in the evening or photographing Christmas tree lights, as we've already seen, it does work, and those settings are correct from what's going on in the chat wings room. And then with the aperture, I'll try and keep it as low a number as possible because I want that blurry background all the time. It gives your images a professional look, and it makes it a nice, faster shutter speed as well. So if you are photographing friends and family around the Christmas Day table dinner or Christmas Day dinner at the table, something like that anyway, put it on those settings because then you'll be able to focus on one person at a time, and then the food and the festivities around them will be out of focus, but they will be nice and in focus. So it's a great one to experiment with and to practice. So that is the third section on tech, and I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about the new purchases. So if you are looking for a gift, or to tell a loved one of what you want for Christmas, you cannot go wrong with a 50mm 1.8 lens. It's the cheapest lens that you can get for a Canon or a Nikon. You're looking at around about 60, 70 quid, I think, for the Canons. The Nikons are a little bit more expensive, at around about 120, I believe, the last time I checked. But this will completely revolutionise your photography. And I know that's a bit of a big word, revolutionise, but it does, seriously. From having that 1.8, if you were to photograph me just now, that in the background would be circles of light called bokeh, B-O-K-E-H, and they'd be all nice and blurry, and then the red berries would be all nice and blurry, and it would be beautiful, beautiful portrait. That is my favourite buy. I've had 3 of them now because they are quite plasticky. That's the only downside, but they are fantastic lenses. You won't need to buy 3 of them. You just need to buy 1 of them because you're not using it like every single day like I was. And the next best buy was the lens pen, for keeping just greasy fingers away from the lens and making sure that it's nice and clean. And then a camera bag. Please don't put your expensive cameras in carrier bags at Tesco's. Buy a camera bag. Yes, that's a £19 one. There's some beautiful ones that I could recommend that are 20 times the cost, but it doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be something nice and snug that's going to protect your camera. And then the last purchase that is a brilliant purchase to get is to kind of like a 2-for-1, a tripod. How many of you that are listening actually has a tripod? It's question 1. And how often do you use it is question 2. Normally it's I can't be bothered carrying it around, or I can't be bothered setting it up and setting the camera to it and attaching that and all that kind of thing. So yes, it's a bit of an excuse because they're an amazing piece of equipment, especially if you're wanting to do the more creative and control of your camera this Christmas. So with those long, beautiful traffic trails and beautiful settings that you can get really cool, funky effects with the stars and the star effects on lights, use your tripod. Purchase one. I'll put a link on the replay as well so that you've got a good link to go with a couple of different options on tripods. Again, it doesn't have to be extremely expensive. You can probably pick one up from Argos around about £30. It will be a little bit more flimsy, for want of a better word, but certainly will be able to secure your camera. I would just, as a kind of an FYI point, make sure that you hold your lens strap just in case when it is on a cheaper tripod, because if it was windy it could be a little bit of movement. And then the second thing that goes with a tripod is a remote trigger. So if you were to do a long exposure and you're going to delicately press your shutter button, no matter how delicately you want to do it, you're still going to jar that camera slightly. It's going to shake the camera, therefore you're going to get a bit of a blurry image. So you can buy things that are like remote controls that will take the photograph. When you press the remote control, it will take the photograph for you without having to touch the camera at all. So really great buys if you want to go for any accessories as Santa gifts or gifts to yourself. We need to all buy presents for ourselves. I think we have a question.
We do. I put on the chat wings that is anyone looking for anything particular for Christmas? And Michelle says photography training, which I think is always a good thing to know how to use your stuff. But then we had a question as well from, let me just scan back up here. Sue was asking, yes, tripod, and is a monopod worth it?
Great question. That's a brilliant question. I'm in 2 camps when it comes to monopods, yay and nay. Yay for if you are, I can't remember, Sue, if we mentioned this when I met you before, but certainly if you are a keen walker, a keen rambler, or a keen dog walker, it really is great to have a monopod because A, it's stability for you, but then it can also mean as like a walking aid, but then it can be a good stability for the camera when you're just needing those little extra stops of shutter speed to secure and steady yourself. For the price of a monopod, I'd probably spend that money on a better tripod, because I don't think there's much point in having a monopod and a tripod, whereas a tripod can do so much more for you. Well, it doesn't make tea, but it certainly can do a lot more than what a monopod can do. And it's like really, I would always go for a tripod, or always go and pick up a tripod more so than what I would do a monopod. Yes, they have their place. It's great to use a monopod in, so for example, a wedding ceremony. If so, typically British churches are quite dark, so be able to use a monopod just to steady ourselves to give us that extra few stops of shutter speed. But then I'd probably use a tripod later on in the day for a group photograph if I want to get a bigger exposure or a longer exposure. So I possibly would go for a tripod. I don't have one to hand, but certainly they all collapse. So they are obviously 3 legs, and then they collapse to one. So that kind of is your monopod versus tripod. It's kind of in together, but that's a great question. I've kind of rambled on about it. If you want to buy a monopod, they are fantastic, but I would put that money towards a tripod instead and get yourself a really good tripod. A great make is Manfrotto. That's Manfrotto, and they're fantastic. They're really robust and really strong. A little bit more expensive in the £100 upwards region, but they're really, really lovely tripods. So thank you for that question, Sue.
And Sue just finished off. She says she'll stick with a tripod then.
Yay!
Steph says,
short answer, yes, you're right.
Steph has opened up this is a massive question, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
You could talk about this all night. But she says, Steph, I love your camera bag, and I have a Canon 1200D. Which bag or from where would you recommend? Now, keep out of New York. Don't even go there.
Yeah, if you want to go for a city break, go to New York and go to B&H Cameras, because they have like a whole department of camera bags.
They do ship to the UK.
Yeah. It depends on what you're looking for, my darling. I think I showed, so that camera bag is a little one from Accessorize. So you can get them, I think the nearest one to here is Reading. I know you're pretty local to me. Reading and Windsor is another local one. There's different types of camera bags. So you have the very classic brown leather ones, which are very expensive, or the brown canvas ones, which are very much kind of the photojournalist era, which are very known to be camera bags. And especially if you've got a Billingham bag, where quite a few celebrities have them as well, if they're keen photographers. It's known as an expensive bags, around about the £500 mark last time I looked at them, and it's normally full of nice expensive equipment, so it's not very good in terms of camouflage and walking around London or wherever with this lovely bag. So they're beautiful, but they're not very under the radar type of thing. The other ones you can get are like oh my goodness, what's the name of the black bags I'm looking for? Lowepro, Lowepro. They're fantastic camera bags. They're very traditional in terms of the black waterproof and weatherproof materials, and they normally have like a little bag over them to keep them proper super dry, and they're great. You can have like different, like a backpack one or a crossbody one or just a little like over your shoulder one, and they range from like £50 upwards, and they're fantastic because they're proper camera bags and they're padded. But again, if you have a black canvas bag walking around with you, it looks like a camera bag. So I'm much in the mindset, apart from when I'm doing professional work, because there's normally 2 of us. But if I'm up in London, I will never take a black bag with me in terms of a camera bag, because I feel as if I'm a walking target then. So there's quite a few different companies. There is a company in America called Kelly Moore, that's Moore. She's fantastic. I wish she's my best friend because I just love her camera bag so much. But she's brilliant, and she makes camera bags, but it looks like it's a handbag. So I have a bag. Steph, you will love this because I love this, called the Steph bag. And when she brought that out, I was like, I have to have it. It doesn't matter what it looks like. But fortunately, it looks fantastic. And it doesn't look like a camera bag at all. But there is a battery compartment, a memory card compartment. You can fit 2 professional body cameras in there, as well as lenses and a laptop. And it folds over to around about double the size of that one. So I mean, that's tiny. That looks like a lunchbox size bag, but you would never know. So yes, long-winded answer again. Kelly Moore is fantastic. Jojo bags are great as well, and there's another one, but I can't think of the name at the moment. But all I'm saying for now is watch this space. Watch this space, because if we don't know what 2017 might bring, that's all I'm saying. Any other questions, my lovely?
Oh, I'm just copying and pasting a link to the Steph bag so everyone can have a look at it.
We're not sponsored or affiliated by them. We're no kickbacks. sadly, because I think I'd be a millionaire just on that alone. So that's very much the accessories that we wanted to talk about tonight. Oh my goodness, it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap this up now, apart from the last part was about lighting. In short, if you can get yourself photographing during the day with natural lights, that's the best thing. It really is the best thing. This is the next best thing. So an iPhone light, so an iPhone torch, will illuminate a subject, especially if it's like an object, to get really great effects, especially when it's dark. You've always got this torch on you, but we never think to illuminate any objects with it. So it really is a great little light. The next best light is a video light, which again is really, really bright, extremely bright. That's the lowest setting, but it is a fantastic light which just goes on top of your camera. I'm going to turn it off now. Goes on top of your camera and illuminates your subject. So it is it's not very cloak and dagger. You will be seen a mile away if you do use this light, but it is good. It illuminates the whole room. It is lovely. So I mean, you can get the whole group, you'd be able to get a whole table illuminated. So yeah, you'd be able to get some fantastic shots with these video lights. Again, I will put a comment on the playback later on for you. So that's it in terms of the technical stuff. I'm just going to minimize this again. I've got something else to share with you now. And in the meantime, while this does the whole zoomy out thing and it will load up with this, I'm just going to ask Steve if there's any other questions.
No, I'll just put it to the forum, asking if there's any final questions. Steph just says, wow, thanks, this has been amazing.
Yay, I'm so thrilled. Thank you, Steph. Our first one, hey? Oh my goodness.
And Michelle says, I'm a keeper.
Huh?
Michelle says, I'm a keeper. She's not wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. 14 years.
The ultimate camera.
Can you see the slide on the screen?
Actually, do you know what? It's coming up now. It's just catching up.
Oh, fantastic. All right then, my lovely. So we have done the whole getting your camera ready for Christmas. We have talked about settings. I'm sorry it's gone over by about 15 minutes. I just got a bit involved when it comes to the tech stuff. As you can tell, I could talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours and still have something more to say. But for now, I just wanted to launch our brand new, our very first online photography course, which has been 4 months in the making. It's no small feat, and we're absolutely thrilled with it. It's called A Creative Christmas. Can we see the slides in full?
My video has actually stopped, but nobody else has. Everyone seems to be fine.
Okay.
So. Okay,
fine. So I will continue anyway. And it's called A Creative Christmas. And it's a 64-page workbook that you can save to your phone, which will get you completely camera ready over Christmas. And there is tasks and sections to go through, which are the 3 main modules. One is portraiture and how to get amazing photos at Christmas of your friends and family and little ones and puppies. The next one is how to photograph lights, Christmas trees, fairy lights, outdoor lights, all that jazz. And then the final section is lifestyle photography and food photography, which, let's face it, there's food and drink in abundance around Christmas time. It'd be really cool if we could photograph them well and put them on our Instagram pages, hey? And become one of those photographers. But yes, that is A Creative Christmas. And a little bonus for you guys, for all you lovely people that have been online tonight, you will receive, if you purchase it this evening, a 30-minute Skype chat with myself to discuss the settings and complete setup of your camera. That is worth £100 on its own, and it's only available if you purchase the workbook within 24 hours. And the best news of all is the 64-page workbook is only £24.95. Like, you would pay that for a couple of magazines that have so many adverts and things in them, and then you get a lot more in terms of bonuses as well. So you can buy it online at the femalephotographyclub.com website, where you'll be able to see all the details, which I'm going to briefly take you over and through now. So Steve, can you confirm if we are live?
Yeah, we're still live. Yeah, Sue says she can still see.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Sue, for letting me know.
Yes, everyone else says they can see.
Oh, brilliant. So this is our main page telling you about the workbook. Like I said, it's been a few months in the making and I am just thrilled to pieces with it. I cannot wait to share it with you. What I'm going to do is just scroll down to here and tell you exactly what you get for $24.95. So you get our 64-page workbook, which takes you on a journey through the different festive activities. Each chapter is ready for you to either put on your laptop or your phone or iPad. You, as I mentioned, you can download it and you can do it on the dog walk, on the night feeds, anything like that, on your lunch break at all. Anytime you can have it with you day or night. It's not very technical based, but tells you exactly the settings that you need to know to be able to take a great picture of a portrait at daytime. It will give you the exact settings that you need. If you want to take photographs of the Christmas tree at nighttime, it will give you the exact settings that you need as well. You also have access to our private female photography club hub. So this is only for people that have purchased the course and want to post their images, need help, ask questions. I will be sending out support emails to you in December and January to make sure that you are happy with your camera and loving what you have learned over Christmas. And there'll be different challenges as well, specifically relating to the workbook. And the bonus content that you get as well is a camera and accessory shopping guide, which will be great just to forward over to some friends and family if you've not asked for anything for Christmas yet. And finally, the cheat sheet pocket guides on all technical settings that you can print out, pop in your camera bag or pop on your phone. So I'm going to minimize this and bring back up our webinar, which will take a second or two to load.
Michelle says, does it need to be completed with a certain amount of time?
Not at all, my darling. It is complete lifetime access for you. So you can have, there we go. You will have the workbook for years for keeps. Forever and ever and ever. So it's something that it's the reason that we did the Christmas course first is because hopefully most of us will have some time out over Christmas, and it's a really great way to get to grips with the camera and just have a little bit of a play and experiment. And there's something about photographing Christmas lights that's really quite just chilling and relaxing, and they're not shouting at you to hurry up to take a picture, they're not running away from you, they're just there waiting patiently to have their beautiful portraits taken of these Christmas lights. So yeah, you've got lifetime access to the workbook. Like I mentioned, you can save it on your phone or your iPad or your laptop or your computer, or you can just view it on the web page that you'll be able to have in the members area. And like I mentioned, if anybody purchases it, or for all the people that have viewed online tonight that purchase it the next 24 hours, you'll be able to get half an hour Skype chat, which I promise will be a lot more intensive or shut down compared to what we've had tonight. To go over the specific camera that you've got and make sure that it is 100% set up for Christmas or after Christmas, and it's entirely up to you when you want to schedule that call. So yes, you'll be able to find all the details for that on femalephotographyclub.com, and then you'll be able to scroll down all the way to the bottom and be able to buy now through PayPal with your PayPal account or credit or debit card, and all the details will be sent over to you immediately. So you can purchase it straight after, you can purchase it at midnight, doesn't really matter, you'll be able to get instant access to it straight away. So like I mentioned, this is the first course that we have launched. This is our first webinar. It's all a month of firsts at the moment. It has been an absolute hoot and a half talking with you all this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Is there any other questions before we finish for the evening?
Michelle says, sign me up.
Woo! Brilliant. Thank you, my lovely. Yeah, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. Bit of information on like long shutter speeds to talk about, which will relate to Florida. If you go back to Florida as well, and photograph those lovely fireworks. Any other questions? Anything tech related? Anything camera related that you want to ask me?
Steph asked a question right at the very beginning of the webinar, just asking the best way to capture the kids' faces, but particularly when they're opening their presents, so like maybe getting on their level and kind of.
That's such a good point. That's something that we mentioned quite a lot in the book, because it's always nice to have those kind of like posed shots that you frame, but there's something so sweet and lovely and innocent and in the moment that's what photography is all about. It's capturing those moments in the moment that we can just immortalize and keep them. Fast shutter speed, because we'll be tearing paper off those presents. If you can stand far back and zoom in so that they're not really distracted by you taking photographs, and keep it on a high frame rate. So that's, the exact term is the drive. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. It's going to be backwards here, but it's the drive mode. Oh, disappeared. It's the drive mode. So you've got single, which will take one photograph, or you've got high drive, which will take lots and lots of pictures. So great for securing that movement, which will be on a fast shutter speed. So try it on TV, on shutter priority, and then go for like 125th, 250th, and about 800 of an ISO if you're indoors, because you just get nice and light and bright images then. So hopefully that's answered your question, my lovely. It's a great question as well. And any other ones, babe?
That's it.
Are we all done? That's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on our first webinar. You will receive the link to the replay in this video if you want to recap anything, and you'll also receive a link to the items that I've mentioned tonight, like the lens pen and other lenses and bits and bobs that we've answered your questions about tonight. So again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. And if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a great Christmas, guys, and a lovely rested break. And I'll see you fresh in 2017. Take care, everybody. Bye.